So I had a dream last night that my parents had reserved a hotel room for my husband and myself at the beach. And they were going to be in the hotel room right beside us. And they had told us that it was a really good room with a very nice view of the beach. Well, so we go into our room, and the first thing we want to do is see the view. So we go to the balcony, and there was one chair out there only, but the balcony was not facing the beach. We were already over the water itself, and somehow we could enter the water from our balcony. So we enter the water, and it looks like about 50 yards away. If you were to swim out about 50 yards, and then go up a few floors, you could actually see where the waves were crashing. And so we realized that if my parents really wanted a beachfront view, they would need to be a few floors up and about 50 yards the other way. But I didn't want to hurt their feelings. And so they had not checked in yet, and we didn't want to tell them. So when we saw them, we didn't tell them our disappointment with the view. But it was already over the water, so it was at least a water view. And then quickly that dream transitioned into a theater workshop where it was an all-day event. And I guess this day of the workshop was sort of the culmination. I'm thinking I had been training with these people for quite some time because I knew each participant well, and I knew their capabilities and that kind of thing, but for some reason in my dream I'm only experiencing the last day of the workshop. Now the last day involved a test of each participant, and so what they would do is they would put up this, it was a green wooden door for each participant. So they would physically take a door and put it on the hinges, and that door would, if you pass the test, that door would belong to you. That door would go home with you at the end of the night. So each participant had a green door, and one of my former theater professors was sort of the coach for the workshop, and he would give you sort of a motivation to enter the door, come into the room, and you had you had to sort of create a scene that would match that motivation, and you were graded, and then that would determine if you got to keep the green door. So I just remember seeing all of these people and their different motivations, and some people did great and some people really struggled with it, but I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting for my name to be called. And we end up having all of our meals in that room. I know we had been going at least 12 hours, and finally I'm the very last person that gets called up. By this point, my theater professor has sort of disappeared, and in his place is a British acting coach whom I know of. I'm not going to say in this video, but I'm familiar with her, and she was now in charge of giving the assignments, and she was way tougher. So she tells me at the very beginning, or at the beginning of my assignment, she said, "You have the most difficult assignment of the day. There's a reason I'm giving it to you. You may not be successful at it. if you are successful, there's a little bit of a prize, but I can't tell you what that is yet. But she told me that my only challenge was to come into the room, enter the green door, and then I had to end the scene bawling on the floor. I could speak 0 words, and someone in the audience needed to be crying as well by the end of the scene. So you only had like a few minutes once she gave you that charge to come up with something and then enter the green door. So I had this whole story in my head that I was going to enter the room and imagine as if I were seeing a loved one who was no longer with us, and then me trying to give life-saving efforts to this person and then realizing that it was of no use. Now, by the end of the scene, I was bawling on the floor, and I remember looking up and I saw my husband, who appeared to be tearing up. So I think I met the challenge, but at that point I woke up because I was really sort of starting to cry in my real life, so it woke me up. But yeah, and then I woke up.